Hello everyone, it is once again Zeri, Persian pen name on AO3, here to read you some stories. I'm several days late on today's recording. I don't know. You ever have one of those days where you stay up for 31 hours and then you sleep for 17 hours? Because that's my week. Uh, I pretty much skipped Thursday. I mean, I was conscious through part of it, but I woke up and it was Wednesday, and then I woke up and it was Friday, so I don't think Thursday counts. Sadly, this will not get me an extra day off of work. Alright, let's see. What's gone on this week? We got Princess back to the vet for her booster shots, got her microchipped and all of that. The shelter in town has a really neat thing where if your animal is fixed and has a rabies vaccine, you get a microchip for $10, which, not mad at that. It was also really nice because I find cats like a lot. Um, Often enough that I'm a regular at the shelter, and one of the workers there, who I haven't seen in a while, was like, "Hey, Zeri, long time no see." And I was like, "Yeah, we got Princess. I finally took her home from the hotel." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember doing her TNR like so many years ago." And he was trying to look up her records because, he recognized her and he recognized me, and I was like, "Man, I haven't seen you in forever. Your hair was long and all of that." So it was definitely pre-pandemic. I'm also trying to drink more water, so I've got my giant ass water bottle, which is fun because now it has, there we go, maybe she was born with it, maybe it's sertraline, little stickers on it to help keep me motivated. That and I'm out of soda for the moment, so, if I want to drink anything, it's got to be this. Let's see what the hell else has been going on. I've been playing a lot of Timberborn. That's fun. If you like city building games and water dynamics, have at it. I woke up like maybe an hour ago. Like it's like 2:30 in the afternoon. This has not been a productive weekend for me, but I say weekend, it's my days off are in the middle of the week. Let's see. What else has been going on? I got in a bunch of, yeah, no identifying information on there, good. A bunch of Angora rabbit fur from another fandom friend I've got who raises them for fiber. It's not like they just get sheared, like they just shave them, they're fine. It's the ones that she's got, they do shearing. Other Angora rabbits, they just kind of shed all the time, which I imagine has to be crazy. But I've got, what is it? 4.5 ounces of the already washed and everything, and then like another 7.5 of the stuff that I just need to give it a good soak first. So I've been thinking I might mix it with some of this. I have a lot of yarn, like a lot of yarn. I might mix it with some of this orange that I've got over here, this orange wool. Make kind of a gentle creamsicle-y sort of color. I just found this in my bedroom under the bed. We had to, when we were getting Princess ready for the vet, she has discovered that she can get into the box spring, because Bucket, back in the day, when he was in that room, or well, when that box spring was in the same room that Bucket lived in, I think this was like 3 apartments ago. The one where I got Bucket. He's like 12, 13 years old now. Damn, all my pets are old. Anyway, this was back when I lived with a friend of mine she was in a bad situation. Like, the roommates, this was a college town, and the roommate that she had been given it wasn't a dorm, but it was like you didn't get a choice in who your roommates were going to be. Anyway, that person was physically violent with her, so I was like, okay, well, you live with me now. This is how we're going to do it. So like we got her moved out in like a day. But anyway, yeah, and then I drove her to the police station. It's like, okay, here's how you file a report. Here's how we do these things. But we were living together when we caught Bucket and his sister Moppet. This is ages and ages back. The place that we lived was on a big slope, and at the bottom of it was where, this family of kittens lived. And a flood was coming in. We're like, okay, well that's bad. So we went and caught them. They were a little too old to really socialize well. Maybe like 12, 14 weeks. So they were on the edge. So Moppet didn't really get sweet until almost the end of her life, and then she, like, they will tolerate humans, and they understand that we are the sources of food and water, etc. But they don't like cuddling. Bucket would only cuddle with me if I was in bed, and my old man cat Heed was also in bed with me. And then he would come up onto the bed and love on Heed and let me love on him. Now that Heed has passed, he lets me pet him like once a year or so. But he'll still like eat treats out of my hand and everything. He doesn't want to really be interacted with. He's our indoor feral, and that's fine. He's still fixed, vaccinated, all of that, because I own cat traps because I keep fucking finding cats, and I used to manage several feral colonies, and now I just have, well, I guess now I have none. Princess was my last feral. I still have food in the car. I have the traps in the garage. But, a good TNR program is amazing. It's, you trap the cats, you take them to the shelter, they get them vaccinated against rabies and fix them, and then they go back to where they live, and they keep other cats out of the area, and also they don't breed, so that keeps the feral population down. Because there's always going to be feral cats. That's just what they do. If there's a niche, they will occupy it. That is how it do. But so you feed and you take care of your colony, and they defend their territory and don't make babies, and it works out really well. And eventually their numbers decline, and a couple of new ones will move in, you get them trapped, you get them fixed, you get them vaccinated, and it's very, very good. If you're like me and you find cats, find your local TNR program if you have one. If you don't, you can see about starting one, or just, do what you can. But Princess was the last of my hotel cats, my regulars. There are 3 or 4 others I have seen around, but not consistently enough to leave food every day. Like, I would leave food for them just in general, but also I have definitely seen the raccoons and skunks for which there is not a rabies vaccine, and if I just leave food without their, knowing there's a cat around, one of those are going to eat it. So that's that. Also, like armadillos and such. It's Texas. We've got critters, just in general. But so that's why the person at the shelter recognizes me. Getting way back to the beginning of my thing. So yeah. That's been my week. But anyway, we are here to read some stories. So, this week, the story is titled, There Goes My Baby. It's another Good Omens fic. It's rated general audiences. The author is Liesmyth, which is always fun. I had read a bunch of their stuff back in the day, but they recently wrote some stuff for the Locked Tomb series that a friend linked me, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing, I love this story so much, I'm going to go read everything they've ever done. But it was still in Anon. Like, it hadn't been revealed who the author was. It was for an exchange. I was like, no, I can't go and read everything else. And so then, a couple of days ago, when it came off Anon, I was like, yes, time to go. And I went and I looked, and yeah, I've read most of it. Of course I like this author. Of course I liked the other fic. I liked their Good Omens fic as well. So, I will not be reading the Locked Tomb stuff here, regardless of how good it is. Because it's not only rated explicit, it's also Locked Tomb, which is, kind of gory. Not in a bad way, I definitely recommend it, but if you are not a fan of gore and body horror, get someone you trust to vet the stuff for you. So, same author, Liesmyth. This was for the Alternate Universe Exchange 2019. The tags are Good Omens, Aziraphale and Crowley raise the baby Antichrist, canon divergence, accidental baby acquisition, bad plans were made. So this is going to be fun. I know I've read this one, but it was probably in 2019, so like 4 years ago? I don't know. I'm still waking up. I can't math yet. But this fic is There Goes My Baby. You want me to kidnap a baby, Aziraphale said, incredulous, and Crowley sighed in a burst of static into the payphone. Yes, please, and hurry up, we haven't much time. I'm not going to kidnap him. He's not a real baby, Angel. He's demon spawn. Satan spawn. Not that you'd know it by looking at him. A flickering yellow streetlight cast its unsteady glow on an ancient phone booth somewhere outside of Lower Tadfield, where the prologue of the Armageddon was about to begin. The Antichrist was currently in Crowley's Bentley, sleeping in his basket. He'd had to park on the side of the road to call Aziraphale, and now he waited impatiently, tapping his foot against the ground. Not for the first time that night, he wished he could use his mobile to call London. Look, please, just come get him. We can always give him back. Give him... Aziraphale stuttered. What, to Satan? Sure, if you want. I can pretend to recover him from the clutches of my angelic nemesis if I really have to. But if we want to take him, we've got to do it now, before they hand him off to the Americans. We don't want to take him, said Aziraphale primly, before the rest of Crowley's words fully registered. What do you mean they're giving him to the Americans? American Satanists, or... The ambassador's wife is about to have a baby, Crowley explained. I'm to take the Antichrist. His throat was dry. He swallowed. And then the nuns are going to switch them, I reckon, and put little Hellraiser in place for the end of the world. The American ambassador, Aziraphale echoed. Something in his voice suggested that he seemed to find the idea of an American-raised Antichrist to be several orders of magnitude worse than your common variety, homegrown English Antichrist, who'd bring about the apocalypse, but at least be polite about it, maybe with a pause at 5 in the afternoon for a nice cup of tea. Crowley shook his head, feeling stupidly fond. Yeah, the ambassador. Can you imagine? It's not enough that he's going to destroy the world. He'll be all American about it, too. Look, he went on, you'll just be doing your job. I'm going to take the child inside, give him to the nuns, you're going to take him right back, thwarting accomplished, and then we'll go to dinner. What, with a baby? Crowley was momentarily distracted by the thought of Aziraphale pushing a baby stroller full of Antichrist through the doors at the Ritz. He coughed back a laugh. You leave that to me. You just do your bit. Aziraphale huffed loudly, and Crowley grinned to himself. Right, I owe you one. Hang it up now. See you there. When he hung up, his hand was just barely shaking. He smoothed down his clothes and strolled back into the night, ready to do something unspeakably stupid. Stealing a baby was far from the strangest request that Crowley had made of Aziraphale over the years, truth be told, but it was quite possibly the most dangerous. The baby in question was the Antichrist, after all, and his father... Well, the Lord of Hell wasn't the kind of being one would willingly go against, even an angel imbued with all the righteousness of the heavens. Especially an angel lacking anything in the flaming weaponry department. But Crowley had sounded so frantic over the phone, and he did have an endearing habit of coming to Aziraphale's aid when things got a bit hairy. Aziraphale pushed through his unease and made his way through the darkened corridors of Tadfield Manor. Thankfully, Satanists weren't particularly intimidating, nor bright, and Aziraphale managed to make it out unseen, plus one sleeping Antichrist, before the chattering nuns could take notice of his presence, and presumably talk him to death. His hands were sweating. It wasn't that he was afraid, not of a blissfully peaceful blonde child, but he was still disrupting the great plan, kind of, even if he was doing so by thwarting evil. Morality was complicated, and Aziraphale had gone 6,000 years trying to avoid thinking about it too hard. He breathed out in relief when he finally reached the Bentley, where Crowley was waiting, looking like a man sat on an anthill. When Aziraphale knocked on the car window, he yelped. "Bloody bless you! You scared me!" He looked down on the He looked down to the child in Aziraphale's arms and swallowed. "Right, the Antichrist again. You sure you got the right baby?" "Of course I'm sure," said Aziraphale primly. "I saw you giving him to that nun. I didn't take my eyes off of him for a second." "Right," Crowley nodded. "Just checking. Bit of a disaster if we got the wrong baby, eh? Come on, jump in." Aziraphale did it, sitting awkwardly in the passenger seat with the baby's basket still in his arms. Crowley rolled his eyes impatiently. "You're supposed to put babies in the back seat, you know." Aziraphale, who hadn't known, turned to lay the basket with the Antichrist on a leather seat. "Why?" "Dunno," Crowley shrugged. "Never carried babies in my car before. I think it's for safety." "Oh," Aziraphale said, and then he had the wind knocked out of him when Crowley pressed down on the accelerator and proceeded to speed in a Londonwards direction several miles over the speed limit. "Safety," he managed to croak. "All right, then." Tadfield wasn't really very far from London, especially not when one drove as recklessly as Crowley did, and the trip went by quickly and mostly in silence, except for when the Bentley attempted to play a crazy little thing called Love, until Crowley glared at it so fiercely it immediately shut up. The blessed car should learn to take a hint. There was a time and a place to try and set up a mood, and this certainly wasn't it. They had almost managed to relax when the adversary, destroyer of kings, angel of the bottomless pit, etc., woke up and began to wail. The car swerved. Bloody hell! What in heaven? They looked at each other. Then they turned to look at the child. "Can't you turn it off?" Aziraphale asked. "Of course I can't bloody turn it off. It's a baby!" Crowley said, then paused. I could." He snapped his fingers experimentally, and the Antichrist fell asleep. They looked at each other again. "We can't keep him sleeping the whole time, can we?" Aziraphale asked, and Crowley shook his head. "I don't think so. Hey, don't you have any child-minding books in that shop of yours?" "No." "You haven't even checked." "Trust me, Crowley, I don't." Right. Crowley turned on the ignition again, and the Bentley drove on, bringing the radio back to life. I don't know this part of the song, so y'all get whatever random melody comes up. It cries like a baby in a cradle all night. It swings, ooh, it jives, ooh, it shakes all over like a jellyfish. I kinda like it. Again, I have no idea what song or part that's from, so there's me. Crowley swore under his breath. The child kept sleeping as they got him out of the car and into the shop, which they both counted as a minor miracle, demonic though it may be. They put the basket on an antique table between two of the less precarious piles of books and stared at the Antichrist inside. "He doesn't look very demonic," Aziraphale said. "No," Crowley agreed. "That nun kept saying he looked like his daddy." He squinted. "I can kind of see it." The boss, famously, got a lot of mileage out of his deceptive looks, and even nowadays he only appeared properly satanic when the mood struck him. Crowley's thoughts wandered in the direction of the child's other parent, examining the possibilities before coming to a screeching halt. I still don't understand why you needed me to do this, Aziraphale said. So I can tell him I had nothing to do with the child's disappearance when they ask. I made my delivery and that's it. But couldn't you... No, said Crowley. No, I can't lie to Satan. He's got ways of finding things out. This is safer, and I bet you could get a commendation out of it if you wanted. I mean, snatching the Antichrist? That's gotta be. I'm not sure heaven wanted me to snatch him, Aziraphale said slowly. Gabriel, he looked awfully pleased, you know, like he just can't wait for the end of the world. He looked down to his hands. I think I shouldn't have interfered with the plan. Oh, the plan's still going strong, Crowley mused, then poked the sleepy Antichrist in a chubby cheek. Look at him, sleeping like a little angel. Honestly, Crowley, dreaming of fire and brimstone, aren't you? He cooed, tapping the boy's nose. Now what shall we do with you? The Antichrist, thankfully, didn't make any more noises. Aziraphale cleared his throat. What do you mean, what are we going to do with him? I thought you had a plan. Yeah, getting the child out of the hospital was the plan. Now we'll need to... I mean, we can't keep him asleep forever. And then he said, Look, can we get something to drink? I know you've got the good wine stashed around here somewhere. Yes, said Aziraphale slowly. Yes, I can do that. He looked very much relieved that the absence of wine was one issue he could solve at least. The bottle shook slightly as Aziraphale poured for both of them. Oh, no, don't do that. Just leave the bottle. Right, Aziraphale said. Then he gulped down his glass in one go. Then he took another long sip directly from the bottle. Were you thinking... He began, then swallowed. His fingers tightened around the neck of the bottle. You know. Crowley frowned. What? You know. He made another gesture with his fist, quick and vaguely pornographic. That. Crowley slowly looked from Aziraphale's hand to his face, then shook his head. I really don't think I follow. Him! The child! What about the child? Crowley asked, then he understood. No, of course not. Who do you take me for, bloody ligger? I wouldn't off a child. Besides, he said, he'd just show up back in hell and then the whole thing would start over again. He frowned. Well, maybe he'd go to heaven. Could you imagine that? Oh, Michael would love it. Michael wasn't exactly known for her sense of humor. Aziraphale took another sip. You're hoarding the bottle, Crowley pointed out. Oh, go get your own. You know where they are. Crowley threw him a long look, then stood up, betrayed, and wandered sulkily in the general direction of Aziraphale's wine shelf. So you don't want to dispose of the child, Aziraphale said when he returned. No, of course not. What kind of demon do you think? And you don't want him to be placed with those Americans? I mean, Crowley said, they want this child to destroy the world. I thought... Vague concepts went through his mind, that the child should get a fair chance, to grow up properly, not under the watchful eyes of demonic minions and security agents and household staff. Free will and free choice, and wasn't that what the entire rebellion had been about? He didn't know how to say it. He trailed off and drank some more wine. I don't think you were thinking at all, Aziraphale said, not unkindly. Right, well, you're not wrong. But listen, it's all up to him. He turned to look at the sleeping child on the table in his basket. He is the Antichrist, the only one there is. If he dies, then there'll need to be another, but if he doesn't, once he comes into his power, either he destroys the Earth, or no one else can do it. No one else, Aziraphale said. Really? Well, I mean, I think a nuclear war might do the trick. But what I'm trying to say is, that boy is it. Hell isn't going to send up another Antichrist if they don't like what this one does. So I thought maybe he should be raised away from... He made a sweeping hand gesture as ridiculous as any of Aziraphale's. All of that stuff, you know? What, and you think you're the right person for that? Aziraphale took another gulp. Demon, I mean. The right demon for the job. Course not. I never said I was going to take him. Well, I don't see any other plans materializing. I don't know the first thing about children, you know. I'm sure, Aziraphale said sincerely. Well, you said it yourself. We can always give him back. Crowley eyed him. Angel, you know we can't really give him back. I can't exactly stroll into the hospital or the American embassy and say, whoops, wrong baby. Footnote 1. Crowley was well acquainted with the layout of the embassy, having often indulged in the small thrill of strolling past the passport unit and messing with people's visa applications. Like many other facets of human bureaucracy, it was a familiar piece of hell on earth. I figured, Aziraphale said. He drank some more. I don't know why I let you talk me into this. He took another sip, tipping the bottle up high. Do you think they'll know by now? Your people. He shivered a bit. Satan. Said Crowley, considering. Maybe the nuns will tell Hasta, or maybe they won't notice at all. What happens if they do? Crowley shrugged. Boss'll be pissed, royally, but, well, I did my bit and they all saw me, so I should. I'll promise to look for him, of course. He shrugged once more and drank deeply from his own bottle of wine. I'll figure something out. So you're keeping him? Crowley looked at the child through narrowed eyes. He's not a cat. Oh, you know what I meant. Yeah, Crowley agreed. Yes, I suppose. But I'm going to need some heavenly influence, of course. Crowley. You said it yourself, I'm a demon. The child is going to need something good in his life, you know. Bit of heaven, bit of hell. Maybe he'll turn out decent. Aziraphale knew that he really shouldn't listen to Crowley as much as he did. If he had, maybe today he would be a better angel. And if he had, his world would be dreadfully boring and a much lonelier place. There was a voice in his mind, slightly tipsy and very confused, musing that perhaps humankind deserved a chance. Maybe the child sent to destroy them ought to be raised somewhere he might learn about kindness and compassion and all those earth things that the best of its people seem to prize so much. Certainly that wouldn't interfere with the plan. I suppose, he said very slowly, well, I'd be